Spurgeon here with RevZilla, and today I'm in beautiful sunny Arizona for the launch of the 2016 Yamaha FJR1300. Now, Yamaha's flown us down to Arizona to tackle some of the best sport touring roads that Arizona has to offer, and we're gonna get to do it on their biggest sport touring bike in their lineup. Now, I'm excited about this because I'm a sport touring guy. I like going long distances on motorcycles. Let's walk over and check out the bike for a second. So the changes that they've made to this bike are gonna be evolutionary, not revolutionary, and that's because this is a perennial favorite in Yamaha's lineup. This is a classic bike and it's got a huge following. So we're going to see first and foremost, they've changed the stylistic lines of the front of this. They've gone to LED headlights, turn signals, taillights, and they've given the bike a facelift to give it a more modern feel. But the real mechanical change that we're going to see is they've added a 6-speed to the gearbox, and then they've put a slipper assist clutch on here, and I'm super stoked to see how that is going to improve the overall long distance handling of the FJR. Now, I'm going to suit up, but while I'm doing that, make sure to subscribe to us at RevZilla and keep up with all the first look bike reviews, full-on bike reviews, and gear reviews that we have rolling out to aid you in your moto universe. As for me, I'm going to go put down some miles on some real nice twisty roads here in Arizona. So we've been on this bike for a few miles now. We're north of Phoenix and we're heading out into the desert, and we're getting on some of these winding mountain roads as the highway kind of fades into a little more of a backcountry feel. Now you can see we still have a little bit of traffic, but this has given us a chance to really play around with the FJR in a real world setting. So let's talk about what's new. And really the biggest thing that we're looking at for 2016 is the transmission on this. They've gone to a helically cut gear, really smooth shifts. There's no clunk, 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 clunk with the shifts with this anymore. It really has a nice smooth feel to it. And they changed the dog ear clutch on this, so they're able to fit a 6-speed transmission into the same cases where the 5-speed used to go, and this allows them to keep engine costs down. It's a really nice feature with that. You get the addition of the 6th gear, but without any retooling, without having to make the engine bigger, without having to make the frame bigger, and by keeping the bike nice and svelte, you maintain that nice sporting feel that people have come to love about the FJR. Now, quick notes with the transmission: in addition to the 6th gear, you're also getting a new slipper assist clutch. The slipper feature means that you can do quick downshifts, you don't have to worry about that rear wheel chattering on you, and the assist feature means that it uses the actual power of the engine to push the clutch together, and therefore they're able to use lighter springs. And what that translates to for the rider with your left hand is a really easy clutch pull. You feel like you're doing nothing at all. As far as the 6th gear goes, I really haven't had a chance to even use it. You can see I'm spinning about 70, 75 miles an hour right now. I'm still in 5th gear. So 6th gear really is a tall overdrive gear on this bike. So if you're cruising down a highway above 75, that's really where you're going to see it come into play. Now the other things you're going to notice that are new for this year, they've redesigned the dash so you have a nice cleaner look, and I'm able to see exactly what I'm using. I'm in 5th gear. I've got my ES model, which is my electronic suspension model. I've got all my settings over here. Honestly, compared to other FJRs that I rode, 2007, 2009s, this bike just feels so much more refined. Now, part of the refinement too comes in with the fact that the electronic suspension model that I'm riding really takes a lot of the guesswork out of setting up your suspension. Now, as far as the power is concerned, nothing's changed. For those of you out there that are familiar with this bike, it's that big 1298cc inline 4, just a brute of an engine, massive power, massive torque. The only negative that I had with the engine really is that right around the 5,000 to 5,500 RPM mark, it gets really kind of buzzy. Now, if you're riding aggressively and you're running the RPMs up and you're treating this like a sport bike, you don't notice it as much because you're too busy, really having some fun with the motorcycle. But if you are on the open straightaways, you do want to make sure you're keeping your RPMs down around that 4,000 point. Otherwise, it does tend to get a little bit busy. Now, as far as getting the power and controlling the power, it does have the YCC throttle-by-wire system from Yamaha. And what this allows for, it allows for traction control as well as throttle modes. And you can see right now I have it in the S mode, and that stands for Sport. And it simply gives me a crisper throttle response. It's not going to change the power of the engine like the different modes on the FZ09 or the FJ09 will do. It just changes the throttle response. So if I'm in a touring mode, it just gives me a little bit less of a sharp throttle. So if it's raining out, or if you're just too up and you want something a little more comfortable, you can switch to that. Or if you want to treat it more like a sport bike, you switch over to S mode and you get a really crisp, throttle response. I knocked it down in the 4th gear and it just kind of rolls on. I can feel it really tight in its response. As far as the braking is concerned, it is going to use Nissan monoblock calipers up front, and it is a link braking system. Now the front's independent. The front controls the front. The rear brake will control the rear, but it also actuates one piston up front. And ABS is going to be a standard feature with this. Brakes work really well. There were no surprises there. So what we're going to do right now is I'm going to keep riding for a little bit, and then we're going to pull over, and we're going to talk some more about this bike once I get a chance to really pile on some extra miles. See you in a little bit.
Now, throughout the course of the day, we've tackled almost 300 miles of some of the best sport touring roads that Arizona has to offer. While 300 miles really isn't enough for a proper shakedown for this motorcycle, it is enough for us to really get a feel for some of the changes that Yamaha's made. Now, keep in mind, Yamaha didn't go crazy with this. They didn't do a ground-up redesign, but they did want to update and fine-tune some of the things that riders have had complaints with over the years. And the main update that we're going to see for 2016 is going to be the transmission and the gearbox on this bike. But honestly, it's not so much they've added the 6th gear that impressed me the most, but how they redesigned the gears that were already there. They went to helically cut gears, which allows for smoother shifting, and then you combine that with the slipper assist clutch, and honestly, you have a bike that shifts like butter. Now, I've spent most of the day on the ES version, but I did have a chance to play around with the base version. And for me, between the two, the ES is a no-brainer for those of you out there that are looking for ease of suspension setup. With a few pushes of a button, I was able to dial in compression and rebound damping, and I was able to set the preload for exactly what I was carrying on this motorcycle. However, I could see riders that want the ES want less options. They want the simplicity of that electronic adjustment. And the problem that I have with this is Yamaha gave us 84 different options for presets. That could be diner syndrome for a lot of people looking for an easy setup bike. Now, as far as the weight on the bike goes, honestly, the 650-ish pounds that this bike weighs wet really comes in handy when you're flying down the highway. We had tractor trailers passing us, and we didn't feel that this was really moving around whatsoever. Now, throughout the sweepers, works well. When we got into some of the tighter stuff, that weight begins to show a little bit more. And lastly, when I first sat on this bike this morning, I almost felt like I was too upright, like I was sitting too tall on the bars. But after about 30 or 40 miles, I really fell in love with the seating position of this bike and the overall ergonomic setup. And at the end of the day, I got 300 miles in me, my shoulders aren't sore, my arms aren't sore, I'm ready to keep riding. So I really give Yamaha an A+ for the way they've configured the ergonomics on this motorcycle. But like I said in the beginning, 300 miles, that's not enough for a proper shakedown for a bike like the Yamaha FJR1300. I need a few thousand miles to give this thing a proper RevZilla bike review. But it was enough for me to really kind of fine-tune and figure out some of the changes that Yamaha made to this and exactly how they come into play. And I didn't have time to hit all of that in this video first ride review. So if you want all the facts on this motorcycle, head over to Common Tread and check out our detailed first look of the FJR1300. And as always, make sure to subscribe to us at RevZilla and keep up with all the bike reviews we have rolling out. From first looks to full-fledged bike reviews to gear reviews, we've got something for everyone. As for me, I got a cantina down the road with a cold beer and it's got my name on it. Thank you for joining us today for the first look of the Yamaha FJR1300. I'm Spurge. Enjoy the ride.